And also capabilities are nothing but the permissions which any application requests the user during installation, which it requires to access another application's data at the development stage itself, because with Android, permissions cannot be requested once the application is installed. The last but the important policy of Android is that signing. Android mandates that every application has to be either self-signed by the author or signed by a certifying authority. This is done to identify the author of the application. And one more important point is the developers should not ask for any extra permissions like checking the call history, which could be exploited by a malware. And here are the few major challenges for the developers in developing an application. First comes the handset models. Availability of hundreds of Android handset models and the different operating systems in them, which have enhancements either in their functionality or at the operating system level itself. It is a tough challenge for the developers to have an application that is compatible across all the different operating systems. And the developed application should also consume less battery and less memory space. If at all it consumes much of the memory, the phone performance might slow down, which in turn may make the users to unlike the application. And the most important challenge is security. How secured is your application going to be? Because nowadays many of the malware which we analyze are seen to be bundled. That is, a legitimate application like Google Play Store application or Google Services application is taken, unpacked, injected with a malware code, repacked, signed with the author name, and uploaded to the third-party markets for the users to download them and compromise their device. So securing an application from such an effect is really a tough challenge for the Android developers. The next is server-side controls. The servers which the application is accessing either to store data or to gain data, it has to have security measures in place, because there are so many Android applications nowadays that give online data backup services. So these data will be stored in the server which they access in the encrypted format. So it is mandatory that these servers have proper security measures to have strong authentication and session controls. The next important challenge is the data transmission. So as it is clear that the applications either sends or receives data over the internet, it should make sure that that is happening only in the encrypted format. And each application should monitor the application screen or the feature that uses this data service. The most important challenge is self-protection. How protected your application is going to be, because recently we analyzed a ransomware malware that is capable of killing any application that is installed in the phone. So it is important that you are not killed by any other application. So these are the few major challenges which the developers face, not but few of the major challenges. And let's look into few of the real-time scenarios which we encountered while analyzing an application. So the first instance is, few months ago, we encountered a Windows malware called Indec, which targets and infects the Windows Delphi compiler. Once the compiler is infected, it compiles all the executables in the infected format. So it is released to the outside world for future infection. So it tells that there is a possibility like Android development kits like Eclipse also has the possibility of getting infected. Second instance is, we analyzed Android applications itself that came packaged with Windows malware files. First Android application had a Windows malware executable, which is not executable in the Android platform, but anyways it had no connection with the application code also. Second instance is, we found a virus file called vroot inside an Android application. Again, it had no connection with the application. So these scenarios tell us that the developers who developed these applications wouldn't have realized that their machines were infected without noticing that they have packed the files for the application with these malware files also. Or the possibility, another possibility is that the malware author, he could have packed it intentionally to infect all the computers whichever it is connecting to. So what is a malware and how do they succeed? First, the hacker searches for a vulnerability either in the operating system or in the application. Once they find it, they try to exploit it with available exploit tools and gain administrative privileges. Administrative privileges is nothing but they can do whatever they want with the system files. They can delete, modify, or install any system file also. So once they get that privileges, they hide their presence and do all other possible malicious activities silently back at the background so that the user may not be aware of it at all. The malicious activities include downloading other malicious applications or send or receive SMS without the user's consent or send sensitive information like credit card number, passwords, etc. to the hacker. Also, it can hack like a botnet as per the commands from the remote hacker. And in the worst case scenario, it can intercept incoming or outgoing calls, as it happened in the case of the Android malware Nikki Spy. So unfortunately, in similarity to the PC malware world, there are Android adware applications found in the wild. Adwares are nothing but applications that displays just the advertisements either to download the games or any online applications or whatever it could be. So these potentially unwanted applications, apart from being a nuisance to the smartphone user, they can also complicate the process of decision making in the Android malware analysis. So over the past years, we have seen a marked increase in the Android adware applications. And so to decide if an application is an adware or not was never so easy, both in the case of a PC world and in the Android world, since opinions can always differ. So few of the applications that contribute to the potentially unwanted applications are listed here. Ad networks, advertisement applications, and few cracking tools that is available in the third-party markets are considered to be potentially unwanted applications. And also, there is an inconsistency in declaring if an application is adware or not. So to eradicate the problem, all the AV industry people has agreed upon and came up with a set of rules and regulations which the developers should implement in their development process for their applications not to be flagged as an adware application. Those rules tells that it should explicitly ask for the user's consent. That is, an easy to read alert message that tells the user that the application which they are installing is it includes an ad network that is capable of doing one or more behaviors which are listed here. So the first behavior is out-of-app advertising. So many of us would have noticed that applications like LimeRoad or whatever the online shopping application, whenever they have a notification or an advertisement, they will display it in the smartphone, that is in the Android phone notification bar. And you can see an icon or a shortcut placed on the mobile desktop, or suddenly your phone dialer settings or the default home page would have been changed. So these rules suggest that before doing any one of these behaviors, the application, that is the ad network, should explicitly ask the user consent that they are going to do so. The second behavior is harvesting potentially personally identifiable information. That is, collection of information like user's name, email address, phone number, or even the call history or the SMS history is considered unusual and unnecessary for an ad network to perform. So whenever they do this, again they need to ask for the user consent before they doing. And the third important one is, if at all any application is initiating a phone call or sends an SMS message as a response to clicking on an advertisement, then or for any reason, this application should ask for the user consent each and every time they do that action. So any ad network that does not comply with these rules or they do any one of this behavior without appropriate consent are considered to be an adware application. The Android's owner Google also had recommended a similar set of guidelines to classify the developer's application as either an adware or spyware or a legitimate one. So and in a recent study, it has been said that over 75% of the mobile apps will fail basic security tests through 2015, and also that over 75% of the mobile security breaches are because of the mobile application misconfigurations and not because of the technical attacks on the mobile apps. So this statement states that what security measures has to be taken by the developers to have a proper secured application. So first comes the insecure data storage. As we all know, Few applications take backup of our data in the device itself. If they are doing so, they should not do it in the plain text format. They have to do it in the encrypted format. And it is advisable that they do not back up the data. They do not back up the data at all. And the next one is unintended data linkage. Any application should not leak any kind of user information to the outside world. Recently, it is published in a media report that NSA has tapped popular smartphone applications like Angry Birds to collect huge amount of users' personal data like age, gender, location, etc., which should not happen at all, and this is what is called a leaky app is. And the next one is the application developed should go through a tough vulnerability test both at the level of code and the application as a whole to verify if any intrusion is possible. And the next important measure is keep the code as simple as possible and less complicated, that it is less vulnerable to attacks. And please ensure that if your application is in definite need of administrative privileges for its operations. If it does not require it, please do not ask for it as it can be exploited by a malware. We have proof of this like Droidry malware which exploits this administrative privilege of another application and it gets installed in the system area, downloads another malicious application and does whatever it wants. So please be ensuring if you read these privileges. Next is code obfuscation. Obfuscation is nothing but making the strings or the class names in such a way it is not human readable format. It will be like a junk name. So the application developers have the choice of obfuscating their code by using the obfuscation tools like ProGuard or DexGuard that comes in with the Android development kit itself. The next important measure is please have the development environment. Let it be either the Eclipse, which is the editor you use to develop the application, or the developer's machines which you use. It should be safe and clean and uncompromised. And the developer should also have an updated security product installed to have safe computing. And I conclude my speech with few security guidelines to the users as well. Never download applications from the third-party markets, even though you are allowed to do so. We have seen that much of the malware which we analyze, about 80% of the malware come from the third-party markets. And also, I would like to say here that Google Play Store, they have an inbuilt scanner for application even before they are released to the outside world or published in the Play Store. They have a scanner called Google Bouncer, which checks the application both behavior-wise and some static analysis also, that it is not doing any malicious activities or any activities that is not considered to be done in the user's device. So please avoid downloading applications from third-party markets as much as possible. And if at all you are in a need to download it, please read the usage of the application and the reputation of the application, which you can get from the author name or the reviews that are available online. And the next important thing is that please verify the applications which the application is, with permissions which the application is asking for you at the installation time itself. Because once you grant it, you cannot get back the permissions which you permitted them unless you uninstall the application. And there is an option called device administrator, which many of the users might not know, because once the application gains the administrator, that is the device administrator privilege, you cannot just uninstall it just from the applications list. You need to do some other actions before uninstall. So please be aware of the permissions which you are granting the applications. The last important thing is all the smartphone users are advised to have an updated security product installed to avoid any unhappy situations. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of governments are now using Android applications to capture data. You know, supposing socio-economic survey or, you go out, land survey, these kind of, public interface, it is. So what is your recommendation? With all these threats coming up, do you think government should go in for, large scale, app development and use it for public purposes, or of course, one has to be cautious and all that, but how much of it, when you balance out effort versus risk, we'll have to take a choice. You think it's worthwhile going for Android environment apps for government applications?
Obviously, I would recommend Android because we have proper security measures and the AV industry is also working on it to have sort of rules and regulations which an application can do or which they should not do at the device at all. So once we come up with such kind of set of rules, you will be able to use the applications in a secured way. All the behaviors which are considered to be malicious will be blocked. Okay, I'm also interested in iOS, but as I'm working on the Android malware, I thought I should share whatever I know about the mobile application security also.
Thank you so much, everyone. I request Ms. V. DhanaLakshmi ma'am to kindly come up on stage.
Can I ask a question, please? Yeah. Do you have time for one question, please?
Excuse me, he has a question.
Ma'am, I am Commander Badam from Indian Navy. Some time back, one app was released. The name of the app was U app. So it was called as a single tap, zero character communication tool. What it used to do was you just tap on the app, it used to send a U message. Only U. Message. Yeah, only U. And it was a very famous hit. The developer was in Israel. He got funding, $1 million funding. He went to San Francisco, settled over there. And the data that the app used to seek from the phone was the contact data and the message data. And after a month, the news was that the app has been compromised. All the contact information of the persons who have installed that particular app have been compromised. So, Android app, I'm sure some of the people over here would have developed. It's very simple. You can straight away download Eclipse and start making your own apps and publishing it. So now, suppose I have a particular functionality now, a particular requirement, and based on that requirement, I find a particular app. So now, what steps should I take to ensure that I have some amount of trust in the developer or in the app? So could you throw some light on this?
Okay. So for that U app, actually, this is what is called an adware application. That is, they are the borderline applications which you cannot say that it is a malware at the first shot. After request, as you said, it requested for your contacts list, right? So it might have sent its URL to download to all your contacts, which they might not be or have noticed. So these are kind of applications that fake the original U app application maybe. There could be an original U app application that sends just you to all the contacts. So these are all called fake applications. And what was it?
No, ma'am. The question is that the app was genuine app, but since the developer just developed it and it just became a hit by chance. So he did not have all the secure practices in place. So because of these insecure practices and just by chance the app became a hit, somebody found a flaw in it and then basically hacked it. So,
yeah. See, these applications, as I suggest, you should trust the Play Store because they go and do an investigation on the authors and they do check the reputation of the author who is submitting it. It is, I understand that just by registering with the Google Play Store, you can't publish any application. They do all the investigation behind and check the reputation of the author name. And if they find any suspicious activities on your name or on the app which you are developing, they'll block it definitely. And with the latest Android KitKat, there is a feature called Verify Apps installed within itself, which comes enabled by default. So whenever you download any application, either it could be from the Play Store or from any third-party application, it does its own behavior check and the static analysis at your phone level itself. Earlier, the Google bouncer was doing it at the server side, but they'll do it only before the application is published. But this Verify Apps is going to do that even when you uninstall and reinstall the same app again, unless and until you disable that feature. So it's with KitKat, there is a lot of other vulnerabilities also fixed, like master key. You could have heard about it, right? Master key and fake ID vulnerability, where the cryptography that is used to verify the author name or the sign which you have signed is also compromised. So they have fixed everything in the Android KitKat version. Verify Apps feature will be helping you.
Thank you so much. I'm really sorry for that, ladies and gentlemen. We're actually running out of time and we have 3 more sessions to be presented. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome once again Ms. B. DhanaLakshmi with your round of applause on stage. To honor her, I request R. Anusha, Miss R. Anusha, CEO of Park Institutions from Coimbatore.